Hi guys, this is Rahul here from myview.rahullevy.net, which is my blog. Here in this screencast, we'll be talking more about property binding. In the previous sections, we have seen some of the features around Angular 2 and TypeScript fundamentals as well, because Angular 2 is pretty much tied with TypeScript, right? So here in this section, we are going to focus on particularly on interpolation and property binding. So, what does interpolation mean? So, within, if you see these curly braces, right? So, let me highlight something over here. So, these things, right? So, these are whatever the values which is we are actually evaluating over here within this curly double curly braces. This is termed as interpolation, right? Now, in terms of Angular 2, whatever inside is double curly braces is basically is termed as property binding because we already have a property, and inside that we are actually doing all these steps, right? So I mean, either evaluating the things and peeping inside the thing and then outputting the stuff. So basically, Angular engine is nothing about picking all those props from that TypeScript stuff, like whatever classes which we are exporting, right? And from that, it is emitting the text. So in this section, I wanted to focus some of the pieces related to image binding. Now, this particular interpolation is good when you have something. So let me just go ahead and quickly run this app. So this is movie forms. It is going to produce that movie forms. So let's wait to commit, and here it goes. So these all values which you are seeing is actually dynamic values and text values which is coming via interpolation. That's the one thing, right? And some of the things which you can see here is like this, the class name which is getting emitted here, right? So that's again that's this value, right? Now let's suppose here I wanted to show image URL. Now from where this image URL is coming, so this should come from my this form component.ts. So here I have put one image URL property. So if you can see here, this is of type strings under this form component class, movie form component class. So this is one of my projects which is having this URL, right? So now the fact is, if you see this guy here, right? So it is going to consist of one avatar image, right? So which we can see in just a moment. Now before this, if I just go ahead with this regular expression, just let me just uncomment this piece, and if I simply run this and just save this, and then it is going to produce me this simple static text which was not intended in this scenario. So this particular simple prop interpolation or simple prop injection is not valid in terms of image, right? So I would say I let's forget this for image binding. In that case, for image binding, either of these will work, right? So here the first syntax says that DOM element which talks is of source type. It should be within a square brackets, and then it needs to be tied with this image URL which is coming from that exported class, right? So now let me uncomment this piece, just save this, then this should produce me that intended output. Now this is the one which is coming here, right? Now the fact is, behind the scenes Angular engine, what it is doing is basically it is embedding, right, with this image source with this guy DOM element with source property. So if I inspect this element, so here I can see this image is that tag with that source DOM element containing this particular address which is coming from that my app component class. So that is the one thing. This way we can achieve the same thing. It can be achieved via, let me comment, let me just comment this piece. Now undo this piece, again save this. This will again produce the same result. So it is now emitting here, it's a heavy image, and if I just inspect this, it will also have the same impact over here in that client side. So it is saying that image tag is having this source DOM element with this particular string which is going to contain this particular image, right? So that's the one thing. Now my basic understanding around this guy is my like which one to use here. So of course first one is not in picture. If you are going to bind any kind of image, that is good for text binding, any kind of dynamic content which you are changing frequently, that kind of thing is good. And but if you are going to bind something related to image, so either of these two can be taken, but I basically stick with first one because this is the common syntax which Angular 2 is following for any kind of DOM property binding, or I would say property binding. Let's suppose whatever property I need to bind, I will just put it in as a square bracket, and I will just assign the same. I hope you have liked this content for Angular binding around property binding. In the next section, we will see around more things like how to bind the same stuff with using class binding. Some of the questions I have got around like font and sizes. So what I will suggest you guys when you are watching these videos, right? Watch in HD mode, because in HD mode and in the maximized view, it is much cleaner and much readable. So it's my recommendation whenever you guys are watching these videos, watch in HD modes and maximize mode. Thanks for joining me. Happy coding.